I can start.
Thank you, Natalia.
My name is Natalia, and I actually work with Magda in the Free Center for Global Studies, and I helped coordinate International Education Week. So I was just dropping in, checking in, making sure everyone's good, and hoping to learn a little bit about fellowships. Who would like to go next?
Thank you very much for this. Maybe I'll go next. My name is Magdalena Zapędowska. I go by Magda. I'm the Assistant Director of Fellowships in the Free Center for Global Studies. And I work with Genesis, whom I'm inviting to introduce herself next.
Hi, y'all. Sorry, I'm a bit late. I just got out of class. I'm Genesis. I'm a junior psychology and English double major. I'm the fellowships assistant this year, and I'm super excited to talk to you all today. Who hasn't gone yet?
Thank you, Genesis.
I'm Marcus. I'm a sophomore. So I'm in China right now, so the Wi-Fi is a little precarious, but hopefully it's all good. I'm a double major, psych and education studies.
Thank you, Marcus.
Hi, I'm Syra, and I'll be joining Wesleyan in the spring semester. I'm a freshman joining in the spring.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for coming to our event, and welcome to Wesleyan when you join. And I think maybe we have one more person. There's a person whose name is Dennis.
I think he may be connecting to audio, maybe
he's connecting to audio. Yeah, because I saw that he was connecting. So, well, Dennis, when you manage to connect and can hear us, then maybe you can introduce yourself so that we know who we have in the room. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Genesis, who has agreed to run this event.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. I have some preliminary materials just to go over so that we can talk about like fellowships. We can have like a similar framework in terms of what fellowships are. So I'm just going to do that right now. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so today we're going to learn about fellowships, and I'm excited to talk to you all about it. So I guess the first thing that I wanted to clarify is what a fellowship is. I feel like the word fellowship is heard in so many different contexts, and it can seem like it means so many things, and it's kind of like this weird amorphous thing. But in general, fellowships are a monetary award that are given to students or undergraduate students or postgraduate to learn about, to pursue a study of something they're interested in, whether that be a passion project or an academic interest through research, and just learn about it. And so it's a really, really great opportunity for people to take advantage of. And I think more people should apply, and I'm sure Magda would agree with me. But that's generally what a fellowship is. Usually for some fellowships, there's like a community aspect as well, where you can join other peers who are also interested in this process or like in fellowships, and that's a really great asset as well. So Wesleyan has over 20 fellowships that are like readily available and open for students to apply to, but the main two that most Wesleyan students apply to are the Watson Fellowship and the Fulbright Fellowship. So the Watson Fellowship is a national scholarship, and so national means that students from all around the US are applying. And so it's a national scholarship that allows and enables students to pursue a passion project, whether that be something like woodworking or dance or film, like literally anything at all that they're passionate about and they're really super engaged in studying. And they create this project that they want to study, and they choose the different countries that they want to go to, and they just take a year to study this, and it's super, super awesome, and it's open to all citizenships, which is something that's really, really amazing about this fellowship. And then there's the Fulbright Fellowship, and so there's two different primary forms of the Fulbright Fellowship. There's the Fulbright Graduate Study Fellowship. And so this one promotes 1 year of independent study in a specific program in a different country. And so let's say you get into a graduate program in a different country and you also get the Fulbright will cover all of your expenses while living there and studying. And so it's a really, really great opportunity. Or if you just want to study in a lab in a different country, they also cover all of the expenses as well, which is a really, really awesome opportunity. And there's the English Teaching Fulbright Fellowship. And in this fellowship, students are able to go to our place in a host community and they go to a school and teach English in that community. And it's a really great opportunity to teach and also to learn about a different culture and become really invested in a culture there. Ooh, okay. So why should students apply? There's so many amazing, but I kind of chunked them off into like 3 sections. Also, all of this information is available on the fellowship's website. If Magda could like send that in the link, like in the chat, because it's a really great resource for people. I'm sorry, you might have heard my brother sneeze.
I'll put the link in.
Okay. So one of the wow, it's getting noisy. Okay, just ignore all the background noise. So one of the benefits of applying is, like I said, the community aspect. When you're applying, you are able to like learn more about what your peers are interested in, which is really great opportunity because usually people apply their senior year, so it's a really great to learn about your peers' interests, even outside of academic interests. And there's also the ability to build community through this like really genuine interest in learning and like traveling, which is really awesome. And there's the ability to reflect on postgraduate goals. So while you're working on the application, you really have to think about what it is that you're interested in, what it is that you want to pursue, whether that be in your career or just as a personal goal that you have for yourself. And that's really great in terms of being mindful of how you navigate the world and what it is that you want to do. And then there's obviously the opportunity to win a fellowship and go to a different country or countries and study whatever it is that you want, which I mean, I think it's a really cool thing. So then the next thing to talk about is like when you should apply. So interest forms are, also I forgot to put this, but we'll talk about this a little bit later about like who is applying. It's really, really great to start thinking about this. I feel like as early as your sophomore year is a really great time to start thinking about like a project so you can get it really, really solidified by the time you're applying your senior year. So the interest forms are due in the spring through a system called Via TRM. And the process, if you join later, like you can figure it out, but it's definitely better to start earlier rather than later. And the deadlines are usually late in the summer or early fall before national deadlines, just because there's a lot of work to be done like at Wesleyan before we send you all out into the nation to apply for this program. So those are the general information about fellowships. I hope you guys enjoyed my little presentation. And so now I'm going to ask Magda some questions that I think, and if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat and we can talk about them at the end, because usually like they might come up. So
thank you, Genesis. So maybe I'll just jump in for a moment because we did introductions at the beginning, but Dennis, you weren't connected yet. So would you mind introducing yourself very briefly? Because it's helpful for us to know who's in the room.
All right. Yeah, sure. No problem. Sorry about that. My name is Dennis. I'm in the class of 23, sophomore. My prospective major is history plus something else. I'm still figuring that out. That's, and then outside of class, I am involved in the farm. I'm currently teaching a student forum. I'm a RA as well. Not too much going on during the pandemic, but yeah, that's me.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for this. Back over to Genesis.
Okay, so I guess the first question is, So Magda has worked on this for very long, like worked on fellowships for a very long time. So I'm curious about how you would define what a fellowship is.
So I've worked on fellowships for 2 years actually. So I think the very long time is relative, because for me it seems
Yeah.
medium, a medium long time. But yeah, so a fellowship is a program that's usually 1 year long and it's fully funded. It's administered either by a federal agency, so by like an agency affiliated with the US government, or by a private foundation, and it supports a year of activity. And the kind of activity varies. So it can be independent research, graduate study, English teaching, purposeful exploration, as Genesis mentioned when she talked about the Watson. Professional experience. There are a couple of fellowships that support that. There are a couple of fellowships that support graduate study in the US or outside of the US for like the whole duration of the graduate program, not just for 1 year like Fulbright. And there is also a fellowship, there are also a couple of fellowships that pay money toward undergraduate academic expenses. And these ones people apply for earlier, so in the sophomore or junior year. And these ones are more, so some fellowships are open to all disciplines and all interests, and you can really shape what you do. Other fellowships are more specialized. So there are fellowships specific to STEM, fellowships specific to people who are working on environmental issues, fellowships specific to people who want careers in public service. So it really varies broadly. But I also maybe will share the website that lists them. So I want to make sure that people see the main fellowship page. It's called Welcome to Fellowships. And it has a brief description of what it is that we do. And then in the left-hand menu, there are links where you can explore in more detail. So these are some like basic questions about what fellowships are. This is a very useful page that gives very short descriptions of fellowship. So it defines like what the fellowship, what the award actually is, what the purpose of the fellowship is, and what is the eligibility, because depending on the fellowship, it varies who can apply for them. We have a very useful page with tips from applicants, as you can see here, an explanation of the application process and timelines, and some more links that I will save for later.
So my next question was going to be, what are some ways to find out about fellowships? But you did that beautifully, so I'm going to hop into the next question. And a lot of students usually, when thinking about applying to fellowships, or just pursuing study or whatever after graduating, think a lot about whether they'll have to pay for it out of pocket. So I guess the question is like, where does funding for fellowships come?
So this is a very good question, and thank you for asking it. Fellowships are fully funded. So if you win a fellowship, you don't have to pay for any part of this experience out of pocket. The fellowship granting agency, whether it is the US government or a private foundation, pays for your travel costs, your living expenses. If you're studying, it also pays for your tuition. So you're not expected to have to draw on any savings. You're not expected to have to take a job. Actually, you're not allowed to work while holding a fellowship usually. There are two fellowships that pay just a certain amount of money toward undergraduate academic expenses, but that just it's a way to like lower your tuition expenses. But if it's a fellowship that involves you going somewhere and doing something in a location to which you travel specifically for the fellowship, then all your expenses are covered. So fully funded is an important phrase to remember. Thank you for this question, Genesis.
That's so good. And so the next aspect is like, what are some of the requirements for the application? Like, what are the different components of it? So like, is there an essay, interview, like what are the different?
Yes, so there are several components that are common to all applications, and then some fellowships have more specific components, again, depending on the discipline. But all fellowships have an application form that you fill out with some basic information about, your address, your emergency contact, your major, your graduation year, the equivalent of your CV, so like a list of your experiences and extracurricular activities, any awards that you have won, any projects that you have completed, presentations, publications. So this is a form that you complete. And then the most time-consuming part of the application is the essays. And again, depending on the fellowships, the number of essays varies from just one to several. The two fellowships that we wanted to highlight today, Watson and Fulbright, they both ask you for 2 essays. One is a personal statement in which you talk about your formative experiences and you tell your story, the story of what experiences have shaped you into who you are at the moment as the person who's applying for the fellowship and how the fellowship fits into your future goals. So the personal statement, that's one essay. And the other essay is the project proposal. And in that essay, you explain how you want to use the time on your fellowship. So what you're going to do, what your specific plans are, how you're going to go about doing it. Again, what you discuss in the project proposal specifically depends on the fellowship and on your project, but these are the common elements. And then you also, for some fellowships, you also submit a language evaluation. Like if you're going to a country where you have to speak the language of that country, which not all fellowship require, but some do, then you need to be evaluated by a professor who teaches that language just to verify your proficiency that you'll be able to communicate. But again, that's not required by all fellowships. It's typically expected for commonly taught languages for the Fulbright, but in many other cases, you just need to have a plan for how you will get around. And then an important aspect is letters of recommendation. The number of letters ranges from 2 to 5. Usually it's 2 or 3 letters. So you ask professors and perhaps internship supervisors or your supervisors from other experiences that you've had outside of Wesleyan, if they are relevant to the fellowship, you ask them to recommend you for this opportunity and comment on how you're a good fit for it. And there might be other components, but these are the common ones. So the application form, the 2 essays, and the letters of recommendation. Oh, and also a transcript, because the review committee wants to see what courses you've taken. The GPA sometimes matters, sometimes doesn't, but it matters how you've shaped your intellectual journey in college.
Thank you. So in thinking about all of these things, I guess one of the things that comes up is like, what kinds of students should apply to fellowships? Is our fellowships just, you talked about this briefly, but like are fellowships just for students interested in STEM or just in the humanities, or like what are the different opportunities for?
I think that every student can find the fellowship that is aligned with their goals. So first of all, you should know what fellowships exist. And I'm going to again share my screen and go back to that fellowships website. So the best way to see what fellowships exist is to go to fellowships at a glance. And here you can just scroll down and see very brief descriptions of the different opportunities. They are arranged alphabetically. So for example, you can see that the Goldwater Scholarship provides funding toward undergraduate expenses, and that it is for applicants who will become research leaders in STEM fields. So if you are in STEM and if you plan to become a professor or a researcher, then you should consider this fellowship. If you're, for example, studying art history, then you know that you can scroll past it because it's just not for people with your academic background. It's for different kinds of candidates. So, so this is a good way to see what fellowships are available. when you should apply, because for example, for Goldwater, you apply as a sophomore or a junior. For Beinecke, which is funding toward a graduate degree in the arts, humanities, or social sciences, for applicants who receive financial aid, need-based financial aid, you apply for it as a junior. These fellowships are for study abroad with the language and cultural immersion program, and they are actually, the advising for them is done by the Office of Study Abroad. I don't advise for them, but I list them here because they are scholarships. The Churchill Scholarship is for STEM. It's for a year of graduate study after graduation. Critical language, this is also administered by the Office of Study Abroad. It's a summer language study program. The Fulbright Award, which Genesis mentioned, these are, I would like to pause here and talk about them a little longer, because the Fulbright is one of the programs that everybody can use to their benefit as long as the person is a US citizen, because the Fulbright is a government program, so it is only open to US citizens, which is unfortunately true of many fellowships. Because of the funding regulations that they have, they are only open to US citizens, and it's a reflection of how fellowship granting agencies haven't caught up with the internationalization of undergraduate education. It's also something that unfortunately I can't do anything about. I can only direct you to the few fellowships that are open to all citizenships. But for the Fulbright, you can propose an independent research project in any discipline, like any academic field of study that is like a continuation of, you know, what you've done at Wesleyan, and now you want to pursue it for a year independently outside of the US. You can also propose to do a year-long master's degree in any participating country, in any program, so in any discipline. If you want to have more of a cultural immersion experience without furthering your academic education, you can apply for the English Teaching Assistant Fulbright program, which places you in a country outside. So you apply to a specific country outside of the US, and you're placed in a school and you teach English to students whose ages vary depending on the country, from elementary school through university. So really, if any interest that you have, that you can pursue them on a Fulbright. And now the Gates Cambridge Scholarship funds graduate study at Cambridge University and is open to all citizenships. It's primarily a leadership fellowship. The fellowships that support graduate study in the UK are advertised as graduate study fellowships, which they are, but they are primarily fellowships that support future national and world leaders. So that's always a consideration when thinking of these. Truman is also more specific. It's for people who want to pursue careers in public service. This one is also specific. These are both graduate study fellowships, the Keesby and the Knight Hennessy. The Luce is a professional experience fellowship. It's a placement in Asia for a year in a professional setting. So this is for people who have pretty clear professional goals and some professional experience. Usually it's open to graduating students and alumni up to the age of, I think, 29. But it's often granted to alumni a few years after graduation who have had some time to pursue professional interest and to gain more professional experience. Although seniors may apply, and graduating seniors have also been granted this scholarship. I'm moving down because I don't want to discuss them all. It's too much information to absorb anyway. I just wanted to kind of represent the range of interest and the range of programs that students can apply for and alumni. But I do want to pause again at the Watson Fellowship. This is one of the fellowships that's open to all citizenships. It's a year of independent exploration outside of the US in multiple countries. And fellows pursue a project that stems out of their passion. It's not an academic project. It's a very experiential, immersive, hands-on experience, and it's open to graduating seniors only. So if the Watson sounds appealing to you, you should really plan well so that you make sure not to miss this window when you can apply, because you can only apply as a graduating senior. And as a Wesleyan student, you are in this great position of being able to apply for it, because the Watson only works with 41 schools, all liberal arts schools. So Wesleyan is one of only 41 schools that participate in the program, and 40 awards are granted each year. And in the past 2 application cycles, Wesleyan had 2 fellows in each cycle. So we have a very good record of winning, and we have some excellent candidates this year too. We'll know in the spring who and whether they won it. So does that answer the question about the range, Genesis?
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really, really great and super specific. Just like in thinking about when I was originally looking at fellowships, I wasn't sure, like I thought fellowships were only for STEM students. And then while like working with you, I was like, oh, okay, so there's a lot more out there. And so I think it's really important for people to know that. And in working with you also, I feel like there's so many different aspects of fellowships and what they entail. And so I guess my question would be, or what are some of the biggest obstacles that can occur during the fellowship application? And then what are some of the ways that like the Wesleyan community, or more specifically you, how you can support, or how you have supported students throughout the application process, just because it is so like it is a little, and not a little, it is pretty intense. So I'm just curious about how that looks like.
Thank you for this question. I think that the biggest obstacle is time. So the biggest obstacle is, difficulties in time management, because the fellowships do require these 2 written essays and letters of recommendation. The Fulbright also, if you want to pursue independent research, you have to secure your own affiliation, which is another step. So applicants, and I don't want to just say students, because fellowships, many of them are open to students and alumni. So applicants often underestimate how much time it will take, or they think, oh, it's just 2 essays and just 3 pages of writing. And fellowships require very different writing than the writing you do for classes. When you write papers for classes, you're evaluated largely on the ideas and insights, and you rarely have time to polish the essays as much as you would want. So very often, depending also on how the class is set up, but very often the process doesn't involve extensive revision. So sometimes when students come to the fellowship application process, they are not used to revision, and they are surprised by how much revision these essays require. So I always take students that, the first draft of the application essays that you write is really just the starting point. It's like 20% of the work that you've done. So it's very important to write it, but that's just the starting point. It's something that we can read and talk about what works, what doesn't work, where you might want to expand, what you might want to delete, whether you might want to tell a different story, where you need to add specificity. So it's really an extended process of rethinking, revising, substantial rewriting that works best if applicants plan to do it over the course of several months. So what sometimes also happens is, even with applicants who do plan ahead and come to the process or get in touch with me in spring, they say, oh, in summer I will have time because now I have classes. And then they find themselves in the summer doing an internship that's like a 9-to-5 job, and being exhausted and not having time. And they say, oh, now I don't have time because I'm doing an internship. So there's always a lot of demands on your time. So I think just planning when you're going to work on the application materials. So one way that has worked for people is setting up appointments with me every couple of weeks, because that's like built-in accountability. And in general, systematic meetings. I also offer different amounts of advising for different fellowships. Like the Watson discourages too hands-on advising. So I meet with people to talk about the project and whether it's a fit for the Watson. And I offer some little bit of feedback on the essays before the campus application process, but not too much, because the Watson Foundation doesn't want us to influence the students' project or the students' way of talking about their passion too much. For the Fulbright, I offer a lot more advising. So I talk to students about choosing the country, choosing the program, whether they want to apply for the English teaching Fulbright or the study research Fulbright. And we talk about how best to choose the country. We like analyze the program descriptions because some countries have preferences, for example, for people who are already doing a PhD program. So in that case, you don't want to apply if you just have a BA because you would be at a disadvantage. And then we also talk about, what to discuss in the material. So I help people brainstorm ideas. And then we do a lot of work on the writing itself. So I offer feedback on essays and applicants do revision. I usually read the essays during a meeting. So during the pandemic or in the summer, I've always done video meetings. And we discuss the drafts in a meeting, and then applicants take notes and they can decide what they will do with the feedback. But the most successful essays have been those where people have really done a lot of substantial rewriting, like substantial change.
Yeah, I feel like it's so important to revise, and it's something that I've been learning. And just like not like just changing a few sentences, but like really like restructuring what you're writing so that it can really grow into what it's supposed to be. And I think that Magda and I had a panel a few weeks ago, I think maybe like a month ago at this point, where we were talking to some of the fellows who are, or some of the current applicants, and they talked a lot about the revision process and how important it was, and also how important it was to get their drafts out to you as early as possible so that that revision could, or it was a lot of the Fulbright applicants who mentioned this, but so that they could actually thoroughly revise it. Because just like you said, as college students, we don't really know what a fellowship application looks like. And so like having someone who does have experience with it definitely helps in how we restructure our writing so it can be like, so we have the best opportunity possible. And so yeah, so that's really great to know, and I'm glad that it was communicated. And so in thinking of this as well.
Sorry, Genesis, I just wanted to share one website again, because I showed it briefly, if that's okay.
No, you're good, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to show where we have tips from applicants, because I also recognize that I'm here, but it might be sometimes difficult for people like to use me as the first stop. I know from students that sometimes the students for whom it's easier to come to me are students who are already comfortable working with white administrators, like if they are students of color. So we have this page that we put together. By we, I mean the students who talk in these videos and my colleagues at the Free Center who helped me record them and edit them. So a student one time said that they didn't feel supported at all because there wasn't any advice from peers. So we put together this page where applicants talk about their experience applying. And so if you want to know the applicant perspective, you can watch these videos where these 4 applicants talk about their motivation and their goals and their process. You'll soon also be able to watch this panel with this year's applicants that Genesis and I did a few weeks ago. It's currently, the recording is being edited and it will be on our website soon. I don't have a time frame because I'm relying on a colleague for like technical help with that. But there is this, like we are increasingly working on also creating this kind of peer support structure that would make it easier to then come and get advice from me. So thank you, Genesis. I'll hand it over to you.
And also in thinking of that, if you guys have any suggestions for what you would want to see for like supports, you can put it in the chat or email me. I'll put my email just because. Also, I just wanted to shout out Anaya because she was there. And I'm pretty sure she won the Watson last year, right?
Yes. Inaya won the Watson and the Fulbright. So she won the Watson, she won the teaching Fulbright to Kenya. And because of the pandemic, she can start the Watson later. So she should be able to do both Fulbright and Watson, which normally people have to choose between the two.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know she won both of them. Wow, look at her doing great things. I love that. Yeah. Okay, so I guess the last question I was going to ask, oh, actually I had two more questions. I don't want to waste everybody's, not waste, but like take too much time. If there are any questions, like burning questions right now, you guys can pop in before I ask you two questions. Okay, so Dennis, was that a question? Okay. So one of the questions that I wanted to know was like, what do you think really makes students stand out throughout the application process or during the application, or specifically maybe because I know there's like the campus interviews for the Watson. So what do you feel like helps students stand out in their applications, just like best practices?
So I think that what helps students stand out is self-awareness and really a lot of self-reflection. So the most compelling applications are those where students really have a lot of clarity about what their passion is for the Watson, or what specifically they want to do for the Fulbright and why. When they have a lot of clarity about their motivation and about their goals, when they know what impact they want to have on the world, and when they can talk about these things with great specificity. So really preparation both in terms of doing research and preparing the project and fleshing out all the details, and also preparation in terms of self-reflection and knowing yourself, which is also something that I help with throughout the summer, because I ask questions that are kind of prompts for this kind of self-reflection. And then for certain fellowships, also relevant experiences. So if somebody is applying to be a teaching assistant on a Fulbright grant for the Fulbright English Teaching Assistant Program, they do need to have relevant experience. It doesn't have to be classroom teaching, but it should be some kind of youth leadership or camp counseling or tutoring, or some experience that indicates to the reviewers that this person will not be lost in the classroom. And the same goes for fellowships that support research. Students should have research experiences and clearly defined research interests and goals. For fellowships that fund professional experience, students should have, or applicants, because that's often alumni, should have some professional accomplishments, so some demonstrated interest in what you're proposing to do and demonstrated success in doing similar things. That also makes people stand out.
And that's another reason why thinking about fellowships early on is so important, because it really helps you handpick which are the programs that you want to participate, or clubs that you want to participate in, or research experiences that you want to get while you're at Wesleyan. So that's really, really great. And then the last question is, this is not necessarily, I'm just going to ask the question. What do you think are ways that Wesleyan as an institution could better support, or the way that it does support students applying for fellowships? I know whenever I go to Gordon Career Center events, they have mentioned that there are opportunities for grants. I'm just curious if there are things like that for students applying to fellowships. And then after this, or while we're talking, just pop in questions in the chat or unmute yourself afterwards about what you're curious about.
I think that the main way that we could support students better is finding ways to do more successful outreach, because we have the website with all this information, and I'm always surprised that students come to me and they said that they say that they haven't seen or found the website. So clearly we are not reaching everybody. So finding ways that actually work in reaching students with information. I had a person come to me shortly before the application deadline for a fellowship, saying that they just found out about the fellowship, or that fellowships exist, and that there wasn't any information available. And we have the website. We do informational events like this one. We write about fellowships in the Free Center newsletter. So I think finding better ways to do outreach. And I'm also working with Genesis to establish some kind of peer support structure that would be more organized or clearer to people. so that there would be like an easier, even lower stakes step than talking to me, which is also low stakes. So I think that, continuing to improve access, continuing to try and reach out to different student populations, continuing to be very transparent and how it works and not making assumptions that people already know, and continuing to make it easier for people to take the first step.
Thank you so much, Magda. So those are all the questions I have planned. Feel free to unmute yourself with any questions that you have. It could really be anything. We're here to help. Thank you guys so much for your time today.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you. And like, I don't, like, I know something of this sort exists, but not specifically what programs. So thank you so much for introducing all these programs to us. And then like, I was just recently more familiarized with these programs because a friend, Pablo, was applying for Watson's, and then he was talking about it, and he was just talking about he was going to, a few different countries to explore the Jamaican diaspora. And it just sounds super cool. And so I just wanted to come in here and find out more about it. So I don't have like well-formed questions for now, but I hope to learn more about it in the future, and hopefully work with you guys on maybe applying.
Thank you, Dennis. I should also put my email in the chat. So if you want to, meet with me to talk about what opportunities might fit your goals, you can contact me, and you can sign up on my calendar. I also, before we go on to more questions, I would like to ask you to fill out this feedback form. I put a link in the chat. My colleague Natalia, who was here briefly at the beginning, asked us that we ask participants to fill out the form so that we can do better hosting future events, if we host more events online in particular. But thank you, Dennis. And that's exactly what I want to happen. Like, I want students who are applying to be ambassadors and, go around and talk to people. So it's really balm on my heart that Pablo is doing that, because I didn't even ask him. So thank you.
Too, in the panel, Pablo was talking about like speaking with his friends and the importance of like doing that in his application process. So that's really cool. Are there any more questions or comments? Okay, so it seems like folks are feeling good. If you guys have any more questions, reach out to Magda and I. We both have typed out our emails, and we'd love to talk to you all. Also, check out the fellowship's website. There's tons of resources there, and we're going to be posting more, like the fellowship panel with the current applicants, which would be really, really cool. There's a lot of cool information about that. There's also a story that I wrote about that, where I talked a little bit about some of the suggestions. And then there's the West in the World newsletter that you all can check out. I'm not sure if it's...
I'm going to put the link. I just found it, unless you found it.
No, I did it. So click that link, and then you'll find so much information, and you can look up like fellowships and stuff like that. So that's all that we have prepared for you today. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Happy Monday. I hope you have, and I'm sure Magda does too, I don't want to speak for her, but I hope you guys have a good week. As we're wrapping up before break, that's everything. So thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, everyone. And thank you, Genesis, for the expert hosting.
Thank you so much. This is really helpful.
I'm very glad.
Yay.
And I hope to hear from you all soon. Bye, everyone.